officials review the latest development in equipment designed to make the foot soldier more flexible. These are water shoes, 5 feet of buoyant foam that enable an infantryman to ford streams and swampy terrain. Each shoe weighs 7 pounds and is capable of supporting 350 pounds. Its inventors envision their use by soldiers when water is too deep for wading, but the boots will no doubt be put to more immediate use at beaches and lakes. No, madam, she's not walking back from a boat ride. The boots have all sorts of possibilities. A duck hunter could do his own retrieving, for example. And imagine coming across twisters when you're half a mile at sea. When in India, do as the Indians do. Before leaving the country for Pakistan, Mrs. Kennedy has a ride on an 8-foot elephant who is decked out in all of his royal trappings. The First Lady is accompanied by her sister, Princess Radziwill, on the 10-minute ride aboard Bibia, or Baby. And the Mahout explained that he and the elephant grew up together. Both are 35. Mrs. Kennedy called this one of the most delightful interludes on her visit to India.
In 1962, the Kennedy clan became the most photographed family in the world. Not just a president, John F. Kennedy was a father who delighted in being only daddy to his children. Filled with vigor and the joy of living, the Kennedys were America's first family in every sense of the word. Only years later would we learn the dark secret that exploded into tragedy in August of 1962.
One of the most famous stars in Hollywood history is dead at 36. Marilyn Monroe was found dead in bed under circumstances that were in tragic contrast to her glamorous career as a comic talent. On the surface, she seemed to have such a zest for life. Her international appeal took her from command appearances to the other side of the world and entertainment for Korean GIs. The star led a far from normal childhood and had 12 sets of foster parents, leading her to say in her last interview that she was never used to being happy, so it wasn't something she ever took for granted. She never let her personal feelings interfere with her job, and she was the idol of the GIs, the animation of Foxhole Dreams. She found no happiness in marriage. Her second husband was baseball immortal Joe DiMaggio, and that marriage ended as had her first in divorce. Her third husband was playwright Arthur Miller, and they too separated. Miss Monroe played in 23 films since her debut in 1950, films that grossed $200 million. The Golden Girl received 5,000 fan letters a week, and to those fans, she never let any personal problems dim her screen glamour. Despite flashes of temperament and tantrums, she turned in performances that kept her among the greatest box office favorites in motion picture history. The curtain falls. Brief and simple rites marked the funeral of Marilyn Monroe, as former husband Joe DiMaggio leads a small group of friends in a last tribute to the glamorous actress. Only 25 persons were invited to the services, and no screen stars were in attendance. Miss Monroe's dramatic coach delivered the eulogy, saying he had no words to describe the myth and the legends that grew up about her. The film star's coffin is then moved to a crypt as Mr. DiMaggio and his Marine Corps son walked with other mourners in the cortege. 500 curiosity seekers were kept at a distance all during the ceremonies, and Mr. DiMaggio and his son were among the last to leave. The final fade-out to the story of the poor girl who became a movie star is written finis. University of Alabama campus at Tuscaloosa is under a tight security guard of state police as Governor George Wallace appeals for calm. Brigadier General Henry Graham arrives to tell the governor, "It's my sad duty to ask you to step aside on orders of the President of the United States." The governor yields to federal authority, but promises to continue what he terms a constitutional fight. There was no untoward incident at any time during this confrontation of state and federal authority. 5 minutes after the governor leaves, James Hood is the first of his race to become a University of Alabama student. He is followed into the registrar's office by Vivian Malone. Both the students are 20 years old and will take summer courses. From the White House that evening, President Kennedy makes an appeal to the nation.
Fires of frustration and discord are burning in every city, north and south. Where legal remedies are not at hand, redress is sought in the streets, in demonstrations, parades, and protests. We have a right to expect that the Negro community will be responsible, will uphold the law, but they have a right to expect that the law will be fair.
200,000 people converge on the nation's capital to rally for civil rights. They come by train, they come by bus and by air. They come from the north, the south, the east, and west. They come united in one cause, to urge Congress to pass a civil rights bill to end forever the blight of racial inequity. This great throng with a cause gathers on the mall that stretches from the Washington Monument toward the Capitol. From the break of dawn, they filter into the city. The men who organize the rally walk with springing steps toward the speaker's stand. On the left, Roy Wilkins with A. Philip Randolph. They have fought their fight all of their adult lives. In the van is Martin Luther King, who has been jailed 12 times on racial issues. The crowd assembled around the reflecting pool before the Lincoln Memorial occupies every inch on the lawns and under the trees, and there's a great swell of cheers to welcome Martin Luther King to the speaker's podium, a man who stands as a symbol of all they are fighting for. The theme, the keynote, the thought uppermost in minds of all here today is best set forth by Dr. King. He sums up a day the Capitol will long remember.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will they be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood.
Later, Mr. King and the other leaders are to go to the White House, where the president said that everyone must be impressed with the demonstration of the throng's faith and confidence in our democratic form of government. However, he warned, there's a long fight ahead in Congress.
The 1963 saw the passing of Pope John the 23rd and the ordination of his successor, Pope Paul VI. In 1963, President Kennedy embarked on a wildly successful tour of Europe. Included in his itinerary was Italy, where he was warmly received by the new Pope. A trip to the country of his ancestors, Ireland, proved to be an emotional return to a home he never knew. But the high point of his journey occurred near that monument to the Cold War, the Berlin Wall, where he spoke of his kinship to all oppressed people.
All free men, wherever they may live, are citizens of Berlin. And therefore, as a free man, I take pride in the word, Ich bin ein Berliner.
Kennedy's triumphs abroad were equaled by his popularity at home, where he mixed easily with citizens and celebrities.
One of the rarest honors given to Americans, and it's a great pleasure for me, on behalf of the Congress, to present this to you. Got a splendid picture of you. I hope everyone had a chance to look at it and present it to you on behalf of the people of the United States.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. That's very nice. I suggested to Senator Symington I should have had a nose job.
Yeah.
But he said there would have been less gold, so... And I want to say that I also played in the South Pacific while the President was there. And he was a very gay, carefree young man at that time. Of course, all he had to worry about then was the enemy.